Aloha and good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited that you're here with us. For those of you who I haven't met, my name is Jen Stanley. I am the account manager for the state of Hawaii. I'm responsible for our SLED customers, so including state, local, and education. Before we begin our program today, I wanted to say a few thank yous. First off, thank you to our sponsor, Carasoft. Without them, this day would not be possible. A second thank you to all of my Google team members who made the journey from near and far to come support this event today. We appreciate you. A second thank you to True and the Box Jelly team. Thank you so much for hosting us in your beautiful space. And lastly, thank you to all of you, our customers, who have joined us today for this amazing event. We appreciate you, and we are so excited that you're here to learn more about how Google Cloud is transforming with our state and local government and education customers. For a quick word from Leilani, we're going to have her join us here for a word about True, and then it will come back to me to go over some housekeeping items around the agenda, and then we'll get started with the program today.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Leilani Farinas. I'm the Executive Director of True. I've had the pleasure of working with many of you. But for those that don't know True, True is a nonprofit organization. We launched in 2019, and our sole mission is to tech enable Hawaii. And a key motive, tech enable Hawaii's organizations, to be clear. And a key motivator to that is that we are really, really focused on trying to solve the cost of living inequities here in Hawaii. And our strategy and our approach to that is taking a demand side approach. So we work with local organizations, local businesses to tech enable their operations so that they can drive value and get more efficiencies. And when they get to that stage, these organizations are able to create the demand for tech-enabled jobs, which are higher wages. And then as a result, the workforce supply, who are our community, our residents, have the ability to go into jobs that pay them higher incomes. And then as a result, they're able to live better lives. So that's the bigger picture about what we are trying to do in Hawaii. True is made possible by the Committee of Public and Private Sector Leaders who are part of our committee and who help us to achieve our mission through sharing use cases, sharing benefits of why technology works, and we do them through events such as this one today. This happens to be an all-day event, but we've done use cases in particular with Hawaii businesses. We've shared how HMSA was able to operate more efficiently. We've worked with Central Pacific Bank. So those are the things that we do. All of our events are available, complimentary and free of charge. And the plus side is that our committee is filled with change agents and leaders, such as Doug Murdoch here, to actually help communicate to everyone here in Hawaii the benefits of technology. So we'd like to thank Google for actually being a committee member and supporting our mission. And I do hope that you find the content that you see today of high value, and I hope you enjoy your day. And please feel free to come say hello. We'll continue to do a lot of these events and actually a lot of other events that tech enable our community. We've done pilots. Our big thing last year was the esports lab in the Waipahu Library. So nice to see you all here and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Leilani. Thank you so much. Okay. Now for the fun part. We did put together a quick survey. It's only a few questions. If you wouldn't mind using your phone and this QR code here to fill this out about what you're hoping to gather from the event today. We want to utilize these responses to curate a better event that's more tailored to what you want to see in the future. So all responses are greatly appreciated. We need some music. And this survey, if you didn't catch it on this screen here, we've got the Wi-Fi code for the event today. We don't want anyone to be disconnected. Feel free to take a picture of this so that you have it. And we can also provide this if anyone has any questions around this later. Alrighty, for the fun part, we've got the QR code up here again. So if you missed it on the last screen, feel free to take another stab at it here. But this is our agenda for today. We have a very full day here. We're hoping that you're all able to stay throughout the entire day, but we understand schedules permitting, you may not be able to. We just appreciate that you're here joining us at all, so thank you again. We are going to kick off with a few sessions this morning. We're going to have a few breaks in between. We're going to be having a lunch, and then we're going to hear from the Mandiant security team after lunch. And after that session, we're actually going to be having a bit of a choose your own journey with breakout sessions that you can choose from one of the two sessions that are occurring at the same time. So feel free to make the choice of what's most relevant to what you want to hear out of that session. But we are having that after the lunch session here. Tracy, you weren't seeing it on that screen. So thank you all. We really appreciate it. Without further ado, we are going to go break out into our first session with Mr. Raymond Dumlau, Director of State Local Education for the West. Welcome, Raymond.
Thank you, Jen. Good morning, everybody. Chris is out there in the back. I do want to share a little bit before I get into the session. It was very difficult to put together the slides for this session. There's so many things. There's so many things that we'd like to share here at the state of Hawaii. So what I've done is really take a look at the examples of what we and you have been doing with technology. Okay. Again, aloha and good morning. Raymond Dumlau, I lead the West. I am from Los Angeles, but I did live here for a little bit, but not anymore, and blame my wife for that. So let's get started. Let me start here. So before we get started, I want to show you guys a quick video, kind of set the stage on what we have done here in the state of Hawaii, and a partnership that I hope you guys also see from Google.
Community to me is the families that we have, the friendships that we build, and the people that we want to protect. For the public sector, our goal is to make sure we take care of our communities. We want to make sure that we connect them to the goods and services and opportunities that they need.
States and public sector agencies operate in a very complex environment, so we're really looking for novel and creative ways to solve problems that we have.
When we start working with an agency, we focus on what are the outcomes and what's important to them. And then we work backwards from there. What's the data, the technology, the applications that are necessary for them to accelerate their goals?
One of the most important challenges we worked with Google on was to try and figure out how we could keep our economy running during the pandemic. Our Safe Travels program was designed with Google Cloud. We used both Document AI and Call Center AI to help people communicate with us and to help the system work faster and more smoothly. And the state was able to avoid billions of dollars in lost revenue by restarting tourism when it did.
For the Department of Transportation, we're struggling with how to look at putting our resources in the right place at the right time. Climate Insights from Google Cloud helped us identify all the things that are important to us in one platform without any security issues, so we can see hotspots throughout the system. That allows us to be proactive. We don't have to wait for a roadway to fall into the ocean before we mitigate it. Overall, the safety improves tremendously.
I personally am so inspired by my colleagues in the public sector. It's really about how do we help empower them to be able to do their mission and serve more people.
When we start looking into the future, our resources are guided towards that long-term vision of ensuring that our kids and grandkids can enjoy all the things that we saw before, hopefully in a better state. We just can't do it alone. We trust Google to help us improve our communities in Hawaii.
Thank you. That's a good example or in summary of how we, from Google Cloud, really help our customers for state and local and education. I'm hoping that I go through a number of slides to talk a little bit about our technology. Most of you guys, I know when the first slide you guys saw, the QR code came up, and I was looking from over there. Everybody took their cameras out, and what that means to us is these devices and how we work with our computers are the things that are powering our daily lives today. It is sometimes invisible because we take it for granted. I have my phone all the time, but there's so many things that I use my phone for. Many of you guys drove here, walked perhaps. If you're not from here, we did get lost last night. We were using Google Maps. That technology and that innovation is something that we want to share to our state and local customers. I'd like to show what's happening in the back, if you will, right? By going into some of the technologies or what you guys or what we are very comfortable in seeing. Many of you guys probably don't know what Google Cloud do, but do know what Google is. So very, very simple technology. This is in our daily lives. It's a verb now, right? We talk about, hey, just Google it, right? And what does this do, right? I will go live, and I'm hoping that nothing goes wrong, and show you guys a little bit about what happens. And I want to relate that to how we want to bring the technology that powers Google.com into state and local and any solutions that you guys may be looking at. So here is a live site. This is Google. And I'm really hoping that nothing goes wrong here. If I start typing, it is looking to recommend things for me. Those recommendations are very different from each of us. But my computer knows I'm in Hawaii, so it's looking for context. Hey, I'm in Hawaii, therefore it's making recommendations for things that I may be looking for in the state of Hawaii. As I continue to type, it's trying to predict what I'm trying to do. I actually have a funny story later that I almost got kicked out in the state of California. I'll reserve that later. But as I continue to type this, how do I apply for? As you can see, again, it's showing results. I really did not pre-program this, but look at some of the things that it shows. How do I apply for Social Security? How do I apply for Medicare? How do I apply for a passport? What we're trying to do here is really connect our technology for state and local services. Again, not pre-programmed. This is my profile. But what we strive to do is make a lot of things easier for the constituents like you and me. And now I'll tell you my story in California. I did the same exact demonstration. It was for the California DMV. I really shouldn't be saying this, but I did the same exact search, and I said, how do I renew my driver's license in California? The California DMV is a customer of ours, and they're actually paying Google Ads to serve their pages at the very top, right? Some of our customers do that here today. And when I did this live, I said, hey, let's check and see where it takes me. I clicked on their paid advertising, and I was with the director of California DMV. Unfortunately, it took it to the wrong site. So that's when I almost got kicked out. But he said, let's try this again. let's look at the Google search result that we found, and let's see where it took us. It took us to the right page. What I'm trying to convey is, even though our customers know, what pages, sometimes the AI, the machine learning, can help connect the constituents to the right pages. Okay, I want you guys to remember that, because that's going to be the theme of the few pages that I'm going to go through, and see really how do we help connect the constituents? How do we provide the services that we develop for the constituents a lot easier? It's the goal for Google Public Sector and Google Cloud. That's our aspiration. I'm hoping that we're able to inspire you guys as well to look at the technology behind what powers Google, and how could we use that to improve constituent engagements, providing the right service at the right time. Ed mentioned it on the video earlier. How do we help protect each other in case there's a flash flood, a wildfire? I'll talk a little bit about that in the technologies or projects that we're working in different states in the slides behind. Okay? Again, what's powering the page before that? Again, it's just a simple white page with a search bar. So we strive for simplicity. That's also part of our solutions. How do we make this transparent? Okay, transparency, because in some cases during the pandemic, a lot of our constituents had trouble signing up for unemployment insurance. There's a Medicaid redetermination coming up right now, where in California, they sent out all the redetermination letters, but they received almost 20% return mail back. But how do we make that more simple? Because look at it from a California perspective, if those constituents that cannot get redetermined, they will lose their services. They don't even know. So it's a problem that's coming up right now. But how do we use technology that, again, is invisible, right? It's in our phones. How do we use that and make solutions with you guys? Okay. Security is another one. We get hacked all the time. All the time. You guys will hear a little bit more about the Mandiant story later, and how we are protecting our assets, your data, because you guys are using Google today on your phone. How do we protect you as a constituent? Right? How do we protect that data? And we'll cover that in a little bit later. And speed. When you search, you get milliseconds. We report that to you. It is critically important that you're not looking for digging into so many links to find the right answers, and that you have their answers right in front of you. Okay. If you guys are using Google Lens on your phone, you can take a picture of anything. It will search using the photograph that you took. So searching in different methods, if you will, is something that I'd like to go through in the next slides, and some of the technologies that we want to share with you guys. And I'll double click on that in the Medicaid redetermination use case that I was bringing up a little bit earlier. And I just want to show you guys a number of products that you may and may not be using today. These are all products that support billions of users in the world today. And let's stress on the world, because it's not just the US. So we serve all of these technologies in different languages across the world. And how often have you seen or opened up, let's say, Google Photos or YouTube, and it's down? That talks a little bit about our resiliency in our cloud infrastructure. We own our undersea cables, which is very unique in the hyperscaler space. So we use the same exact infrastructure that we provide you as a consumer for Google Cloud. So imagine now that There's a lot of tech layoffs today. In this case, if a lot of folks that are laid off are applying for unemployment insurance, if you're running on Google Cloud, we can protect you from our network. Not from our network, by using our network, because we can scale. Thank you, Chris. Because we can scale at with all of the users you guys currently have. That is very unique for Google and outside of the other hyperscalers. And we're all doing this in the cleanest cloud in the world. We're striving for, I think, Chris, in what, 2030, we will be carbon zero for all of our data centers. We're all going to be using renewable energy. So we really care about not only the people, the solutions, but also the environment. And you will see that in a lot of the projects that we're working on. That is what we aspire to do. So let me dive in a little bit on the different boxes over here. And my intention is to really show you guys how these technologies that you guys see day in and day out, how they could be applied into state and local services. So the first one would be language. Who owns Alexa? Who owns Google Home? That is all artificial intelligence. But from a Google perspective, we're using all of what you search online, and we're turning that into text to better understand how you ask your questions to Google. Again, across the world, we can understand in multiple languages and execute those commands, if you will. So imagine that in your day-to-day, or I as a constituent. My second language is Tagalog. I speak fluent Tagalog, and I can conversate with Google, if you will, in my native tongue, and it will give me a response back in my native tongue. In some of our customers, a real live translation or real-time translation is being used in courts today. So imagine going into court and you can't find anybody that can help you because you don't speak English well. How do you communicate? Then it's not providing me equitable service, if you will, because if they do not understand what I'm trying to communicate, I'm at a disadvantage, right? So what if I'm paying a parking ticket and I can't really convey that, hey, it wasn't my fault, right? So in California, and I believe here also for Department of Labor, we are using that technology today. We have devices that are live that I can speak English, and it will speak a different language on the other end, and vice versa. So I can speak Tagalog, and the device will utter English on the other end. California DMV is using that. The Superior Courts of Los Angeles is also using it, and DLIR here in the state of Hawaii is also using that technology today. That's one of the many examples of how we make equity around language accessible for all of the constituents. Again, that is the goal, right? Here in Hawaii, there's a melting pot of different cultures, different languages being spoken. Outside of real-time language translation, we're also able to take documents that you guys have. I'm sure most of you have used Google Translate live from a website. But imagine looking at a PDF and able to translate that in seconds while preserving your document format. And I'll show you a little bit about that in this demo. And I'll touch on collaboration, visual data, geointelligence, and big data as well as we go through. But let me show you something real quick on the power of language translation. Again, I'm going to use a pandemic example where if you want to broadcast flyers, if you will, or PDFs, and you need to communicate that into multiple languages, normally you would hire a translator, but that will take at least a few days or a week for you to get that back. At that time, it's already delayed. If you're a public health official, that time is very valuable for you to communicate the information in a timely manner. So with our Enterprise Translation Hub, you're able to take your existing PDFs, and we will preserve the format, and we can translate that to over 130 languages today. And that's also being used in the state of Hawaii in a number of states. So that's talking about just document translation. We're also using these types of solutions in a number of states where I'm sure there's a lot of boxes hanging around with archived documents. How do you make use of those documents? How do you know what data could be sitting there that could be valuable? We're able to scan those documents for you, and even if it's in a different language, we were able to identify it and convert that into English, or do some redaction. But we really make the data from those documents usable. Again, that's the power of Google. Just imagine, again, that Google search. As we consume those documents, if you will, we can make it searchable, usable, so that you guys can take action on that data, right? So you're not only relying on the transactional system that you have, but now you have historical information that you can continue to build upon, okay? For collaboration, actually I'm going to do a live demo again, and we didn't rehearse this. I have an 11-year-old, and my daughter grew up on Google Workspace. I haven't worked for Google for a long time, so I've been with Google now for 4 years. I was always a Microsoft user. I thought converting to Google was going to be difficult for me, but I had my little tech support, which was my little daughter, that was able to help me understand how to use Google. But from a collaboration perspective, this is a document that I created, and that you can see Daniel and Amanda in that same exact document today. And we're able to collaborate in real time, make edits to the same document, and preserve the latest. Again, imagine that PDF document that I was mentioning earlier. If you need to get something out real fast, you're not circulating documents via email and getting lost. I can simply send a link over to anybody that can collaborate in real time and get that document completed as fast as we can. And it keeps the history of all the changes. And I don't know what Daniel is doing. Okay, he's putting the password for the Wi-Fi again. So that's the power of collaboration. That's on our workspace side of the products. But outside of that, going back to here, we've also taken that same exact technology, in this case, like workforce services. How do we best collaborate with the applicants or the folks that want to use the workforce services systems? So we provide video conferencing solutions, in this case, that could work with somebody that needs some resume help, right? Again, in real time, I'm over video. We have one document that we're collaborating against, rather than somebody doing it in pen and paper. Well, we can coach the person on the other end and get things done a lot faster. We volunteer. So where's Lailani? So I love what they're doing. We, as part of our Google team, we actually spend roughly 20% of our time volunteering in underserved communities, and how do we help coach kids that may not have the access to these types of technologies. And this is how we help coach them. We will set up video conference calls and help them through what they need using these documents. And again, my 11-year-old has been teaching me how to use it a lot more. She does much more prettier Google Slides than I do, and animation too. I clearly have now mastered the animation side of Google Slides. Now for visual data, I used the example of Google Lens earlier. That's something that you see on your phone. But using and collecting the video information is not reserved to using your smartphone. I will assume that some of your fleets may have cameras, or your buses may have cameras today. We can use the information that's captured in those cameras today and make them very useful. That's exactly what we're using in a number of states and cities, where we're looking at the camera feed and identifying where the potholes are. I will use again Los Angeles because it's the number one lawsuit in the city of Los Angeles is raised sidewalks and buckling sidewalks. It is a huge cost for the city of Los Angeles when they get sued and they have to pay out because somebody tripped and fell in raised sidewalks. So aside from avoiding lawsuits, but now they're capturing the information to repair, to make it more safer for the constituents of Los Angeles. Potholes is the same exact thing. If I hit a really bad pothole, it may cause an accident. So from a DOT perspective, it'll be great to understand where these potholes are, understand how big or small those are, and send out crews to fill them as needed. So if it's something that's just small, you don't need to. But I can identify and use geolocation where those potholes are, and when the time comes, I can go and deploy my crew to get it fixed. Another use case is graffiti or bulky item pickup. Again, I'm going to use Los Angeles. I live there. Graffiti is all over the place. So graffiti from a cleanup perspective, we're able to identify where they're at and send the crews to do sandblasting on the walls. But in law enforcement, it's also able to identify key tags, if you will, from the folks that are tagging the streets. So we're able to understand where the gang lines are. I don't know what the right terminology, but if it's encroaching into one, to understand how and if there's a potential conflict happening from a public safety perspective. But again, all of that data is collected today. I would, again, gander to guess you guys have video camera data all over the place. And it's not limited to, or shouldn't be limited to the buses. Any of the video feeds that you guys have. And in fact, we're doing this in a project for DOT today for safety. Okay. Most of you guys have probably jumped on the toll roads and gotten a ticket because you don't have the pass. It's the same exact technology, but we've advanced our AI to really understand even the make, the model. So if we have that type of information, understand how we could then understand what type of vehicles are going through specific highways or corridors, and plot where carbon emissions are happening. And with weather data, we can also predict where those carbon emissions are going. So we can solve equity when we're building new roads. Or how do we electrify a particular city or a particular corridor? We can see how many electric vehicles are going through a specific area. And I'll talk a little bit about that in our equity solution earlier, where we're taking a lot of the data that is collected today that you guys also have and some that Google have. Okay? How are we on time? Good? 5 minutes? Okay. So this is that example of us collecting cross-street data today. We can easily create and capture and ingest that data and do intelligence around it. So a lot of our solutions are literally point and click, drag and drop type of solutions that can quickly build models and understand what we're trying to identify. Because I think, sir, you're part of the fire department? I do have a use case that we're working on for emergency services today, and it employs GPS information, it employs augmented reality, it employs satellite imagery to help firefighters connect with each other, especially in wildfires. Again, in California, when a wildfire happens, we typically employ different engine companies from different counties to help. We are helping with augmented reality, GPS location, to really understand where the firefighters are, especially when the smoke you can't see. We can show augmented reality to pan through Google Glass and see, hey, there's my company over here, or there's a person over here. Here's my exit. And it's all being broadcasted from the engines to the firefighters. So imagine how that could save lives, help save the homes that are in danger during the wildfires as well. One last thing on that one, we're actually helping with FEMA understand before and after. If there's a wildfire, if there's any natural disaster, we're able to see the before and after to really understand what was there so we can apply for insurance and help. So we also use a little bit of our satellite imagery and collect that information to make it a lot easier for the constituents to get the benefits back if their house were to burn down. We go to the next one. Oops. So I touched on this a little bit. We're really compounding a lot of the technologies that you guys use today. Again, everybody uses Google Maps, Waze, so we have an understanding of mobility, if you will. But not only that, with Google Earth, which is being used today in a number of projects, we're able to understand satellite imagery and over time understand how it's affecting the environment. And we use that to build solutions for you. Again, some examples would be air quality. We have weather patterns, historical weather patterns that we can ingest through your EPA devices, but also we can collect hyper-local air quality information at the street level. So imagine the Street View cars, it's collecting air quality information in partnership with a company called Aclima. We're able to collect air quality. Again, we couple that with historical weather patterns. We know where the wind blows and where the pollutants are going, and how do we then build more sustainable either roadways, or where are we going to build new homes or subdivisions, or even just protect the environment in general. In the farmlands, we track methane, illegal burning. How do we collect that information and make that usable and actionable? The example that I'm going to show right now is one of the projects that we have. This is predicting flood. So we're looking at aerial view of any particular city or state, and we can accurately predict where flood will happen using the data that we have, historical and customer data as well. This could be applied in, again, the wildfire use case that I mentioned earlier as well, or even just restoring tree canopy. Like, where would you put and plant trees so that you're not losing trees? Okay. Daniel, how am I with time? 5 minutes? Okay. We're good? I got one last one. Sorry. The last one that I want to cover is big data. All of the examples I mentioned today seem so impossible, if you will. But that's where Google comes in. I want to go back to the google.com webpage. How are we able to make sense of the searches that you're looking for? How are we able to comb through the amount of information and make that usable for you? And that's the power of Google. We want to share that type of capability and for you to analyze the existing data that you currently have today and make them actionable. Okay. And with that, I will turn it over to Daniel. Thank you very much.